Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your frosty hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and this is the show where we review all the anime series from the previous season we did and didn't watch start to finish. Today we get spiritual on your butts. First I will take a look at the many mysterious cases of the Vatican Miracle Examiners, and then John will talk about a group of people who have pledged their souls to the all-too-familiar religion of digital entertainment, aka gamers. So take the next few seconds to say your personal prayers. We'll be right back. There are those who would examine claims of holy miracles from around the world and verify a miracle has indeed occurred. Please show them the way, O Lord, the Vatican Miracle Examiners! These special examiners, the narrator at the beginning of this show, so P introduces with such a bravado, are two young men by the name of Joseph Ko Hiraga and Roberto Nicolas. Both are outstanding experts in their fields. Hiraga in science and Roberto in old texts and languages. And whenever somewhere in the world something ostensibly inexplicable happens that some people would deem a miracle, these two are sent out to investigate these occurrences and to validate or debunk said miracles. Their first case in the series leads them to an abbey in northern Mexico, where they are to confirm an immaculate conception. But dark forces have taken root in this holy place, and soon the floors run red with the blood of its members, who all seem to have become victims of a satanic ritual. But is this truly the devil's work, or are some very human monsters pulling the strings? To unearth the Abbey's hidden secrets, Hiraga and Roberto need to apply their special brand of solid detective work and also have to overcome some of their own demons. So, Vatican Miracle Examiner, or Vatican Kiseki Chosakan, is based on a light novel series by Rin Fuyuki, which started in 2007, has currently 13 volumes and is apparently still running. There are also two manga based on this material, one by Eiji Kaneda, running for 2 volumes between 2012 and 2013, and another one by Anjue Mihino that started in 2016 and is apparently still running as well. The anime series, which I don't know what that was based on, if it was directly based on the light novel or on any of the manga, but that was produced by j.c.staff, which we have already mentioned a few times on this show. We have even reviewed some of their series. For example, Flying Witch and the first 2 seasons of Food Wars. Did we review Heavy Object? I think you reviewed that, right?
Yes.
Yes, so that too. But they are also well known for many other projects like Azumanga Daioh, the Index series, Utena, Slayers. So a lot of well-known high-profile work. I think we both really enjoy the shows they create, like they are responsible for.
I give them shit because I'm constantly asking when's Index 3 and it's coming next year.
That only means that you really like that show. So, I mean,
but I do think they do some good work. I'm not gonna lie when I say I'm a little worried about the fact that One Punch Man is being handed off to them, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I really enjoy the design of the shows they work on, and what applies for those shows applies for Vatican Miracle Examiner as well. The character artwork is pretty crisp, like in all the stuff they've done that I've watched. The backdrops are often gorgeous. For example, in this show, the second case is about a painter. And whenever they show the sky in that chapter, it is a wild variation or interpretation of Vincent van Gogh's The Starry Night. It's really cool. And yeah, you know, that's stuff that I'm not surprised seeing in the j.c.staff show. So when it comes to still frames, this is a really good looking show. But just like the other j.c.staff stuff we have watched, when it comes to actual animation, and here come our concerns with them taking over One Punch Man into play, when it comes to actual animation, it's often lackluster and in Vatican Miracle Examiner's case, hilariously shoddy. Some characters display weird stiff movement or run cycles. The few action scenes in the show look really clumsy and low budget.
Oh boy.
That adds to the fun factor, and we'll get to that, but still, it sticks out. It's kind of a shame because it always jumps out at you, especially since there is not a lot of movement in general in this show to begin with. Most of this show consists of dialogue scenes, mostly between our two main characters or other people that they're interviewing and, stuff like that. And people looking at things with shocked faces and stuff like that. So, yeah, not a lot of actual, action animation or, character animation besides, faces and stuff like that. So, yeah, it feels a bit low budget at times. The beautiful background art aside. Director Yoshitomo Yonetani, who has directed Food Wars, a series I like quite a lot, and I think you do now as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're eventually gonna talk about it, but I was sort of on Food Wars at first, but now I've realized it is way more hype than I could have possibly imagined.
It's a very entertaining show, and it's got some really great directional choices in it, and some really, really outstanding looking stuff, even on a limited budget. But in this show, Yonitani apparently tries to compensate for the lack of, actual animation and movement on the characters and everything by adding a lot of camera movement, which is super distracting. The camera almost never stays still. It's always panning from left to right, vice versa, upward, downward. There are many zoom ins and outs. The show almost has more Dutch angles than Battlefield Earth. I wouldn't say it's as overzealous as the camera work in Berserk, but it's very close and unnecessary in my opinion. I don't think Yonitani is going as crazy with the panning shots in Food Wars, or maybe it doesn't stand out so much there because the characters are actually doing more than talking in that show. I don't know. It's weird. But that never bothered me. If it's in Food Wars and I have to, catch up on the third season and take a look at that with, keeping that in mind. But that never jumped out at me in Food Wars. And it really did in this show. So I wonder if someone else is responsible for this, one of the storyboard artists or something. But this feels like a weird directional choice. And it's really distracting sometimes. The music is pretty good. Yoshiaki Fujisawa did the score. He worked on Dimension W. Say what you will about that show, and I have said many things, mostly bad things, but the music is probably the best, or at least bad thing in that series. So make of that what you will. He also scored the first Love Live series, and is currently working on Land of the Lustrous. So yeah, some good stuff. For Vatican Miracle Examiner, the soundtrack is delivering just the right amount of dark and ominous tunes and dramatic exploding chorus tracks whenever something ridiculous happens, which is most of the time. And the OP, Mysterium by Screamwood, is also pretty great. It's probably one of my favorite tracks, definitely this season, if not this year. It has really grown on me. I like that track a lot, and that opening especially because it gives you a really good idea about what the show is. What the show is. What is the show? Boy. Now, if you listen to my summary of the story setup for the show at the beginning and thought, why? This is probably a gloriously dumb train wreck waiting to happen, you were absolutely right. In fact, this is why I even bothered checking out this show. And from the moment that narrator blared out of my speakers, I knew, oh yeah, this will be grade A trash stash material. And well, that's exactly what I got. Vatican Miracle Examiner is a ridiculous, hilariously over the top, and incredibly dumb and silly show. The first case alone has so many stupid twists coming out of nowhere that I literally laughed out loud several times during its runtime. It's that dumb. I couldn't believe the places they were going to with that story in certain parts. But stupid twists alone wouldn't suffice unless they are framed with an inappropriate amount of gravitas, which they are. Every time something somewhat scary happens, there is some freaky imagery or someone gets, murdered. You have wild color schemes, sharp contrasts, a very ecstatic, swelling chorus, and lots of amazing overacting. It's kind of a pure joy to see how much the show wallows in its own ridiculousness. It seems very self-aware. It even pokes fun at itself sometimes, which is also very welcome. There's there's a death happening in the second case, and the status of the victim is kind of peculiar. And Hiraga is like, how did that happen to that person? And one of the investigators, a police man, actually, suggests an idea what might have happened. And I was sitting on my couch like, what the fuck? Are you serious? and Hiraga pretty much reacts the same way as I do. I was like, what? That is impossible. And Roberto's like, Hiraga, he was obviously making a joke. Are you stupid? And yeah, the guy actually made a joke, and yeah, they got me, because the first case of that show was so ridiculous and so dumb, had so many stupid twists, that I was willing to believe that was actually happened to this person, because it made sense in the context of this dumb show. So you got me, Vatican Miracle Examiner. You made me believe for a second there. Good job. So anyway, I enjoyed that. Yeah, Hiraga and Roberto are also pretty okay main characters, actually. I expected them to be like super flat mouthpieces, but they're sympathetic, they're competent, actually, albeit a bit naive in Hiraga's case. There's some interesting, and again, partially hilarious backstory for them that comes into play in the later cases. So we even get at least a bit of character depth for them. They're also incredibly gay for each other, I must say, which will make the fangirls and boys happy, I assume. Of course, it's the usual, we're only super good friends and everything. And, then there's the obligatory scene where Hiraga sucks out poison out of fucking... of Roberto in one scene. It's like, yep, yeah, I knew.
Oh,
yep.
You're implied yaoi. You're more than implied yaoi.
Yeah. So there you go.
Really, when it comes to anime, implied anything, though.
Yes, sure. Definitely. Nothing wrong with that. And so I would say there is a lot of funny stuff for a lot of people in there. There are two smaller gripes I had with the show, besides the overbearing camera work and somewhat lackluster animation. All those cases are pretty much whodunit murder mysteries at their cores. I mean, there's always like the illusion, this might be some, the work of demonic forces and stuff like that. But deep down, no, this is someone is pulling some shit here. But why? That's interesting. Why are these people getting murdered? What are the motives? What's happening here?
Because they got to build toward the supernatural BS, right?
Yes, and it's actually. Just from a feeling, this is kind of the same setup as an a prolonged Scooby-Doo episode, kind of. Actually, that's a pretty valid comparison. It's same ridiculous setup, same ridiculous twists, same stupid motives for the people who are actually responsible. So I guess that fits. Yes, Vatican Miracle Examiner is the Japanese version of Scooby-Doo. You heard it here first, folks. Anyway, so...
holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, all those cases, pretty much murder mysteries. But the perpetrators and their motives are so outlandish and stupid that there is almost no way to puzzle along, which kind of is, which maybe is the difference to Scooby-Doo then. Because, in most of the time, some of that shit is so insane that you won't see it coming. I mean, I usually had a pretty good idea about who the main bad guy was or might be, but all the details of the cases got so dumb and hilariously convoluted that I would have never been able to guess, their full extent. So, that's kind of a bummer that you can't, I think it's that guy, and it's because of this and this, and most of the time it's like, wait, what? No, I didn't see that coming. Okay. Was completely on the wrong path. But maybe some of you will, those with, more wild imagination than I have. But yeah, that brings me to my second problem. There are 3 cases in this show. The first one is kind of standalone. Then we get a one-off. Then the second and third case, and then another one-off to wrap up the series. The problem is the first case is already the best the show has to offer in regards to what I wanted from it, which is over-the-top dumb shit. But that also means that the following cases get progressively less interesting. They're not necessarily bad. There's still, there's still interesting things happening and ridiculous shit. But, it's not as good as the first one. Like, it feels like they're like basically, fired their best shot right in the beginning. And maybe they should have kept that until the end. The third case is actually the weakest in my opinion. And even though the second and third case are somewhat linked plot-wise, it feels like they both could have used a few more episodes and twists thrown in there to make things more interesting. Although, the second case has a beautifully silly, over-the-top dream sequence that made me very happy. It's like, yes, that's why I'm here. But yeah, not much more to say, actually, about this show. I really enjoyed it. If you are also looking for a so bad that it's good anime, like I often do, I would say check it out. Like I said, the later cases are not as interesting as the first, but we got pretty much everything in here. Demonic rituals, bizarre murders, weird alternative history, freaky science experiments, secret societies, crazy nightmares and visions. It's all here. And, and if you love stupid stuff like that, maybe give this show a chance. It's only 12 episodes, so not much of a time investment. And I had fun with it. I mean, it's not a good show by any means. Really, no, not at all. But it's definitely my preferred flavor of dumb, and I hope we get a second season.
So, next up on the docket is you got to get ready to clean the contacts on those cartridges, because we're going to be gamers now.
Yay. We always were. We could never escape.
Hey, teen gamers. Hey.
Hello, fellow kids.
I watch Super Beard Bros a lot, and that's one of the dumb jokes that Alex likes to make, so I'm appropriating it for a moment here, just to be dumb. All right. Gamers is about this kid named Keita Amano. He's your typical high school gamer living out your average life. He's not really a standout sort of guy. He's just living day to day and, enjoying his video games. No big deal, whatever. But one day, he has an unexpected meeting with the cutest girl in school. But he's not quite sure how to handle himself. He just wants to disappear without a trace. Boy, this sure sounds like my high school experience.
Only yours, probably.
So this girl, Karen Tendo, is in, I just want to start off by saying I didn't realize at first Nintendo.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I didn't put 2 and 2 together at first.
Me neither, until just now.
So Karen is an exemplary student. She's proclaimed as the school's idol. She's smart and kind. She's, a president of the student council. She's all of these things, stereotypical. Did I mention yet that this is a light novel adaptation?
Mm-hmm. Both went down the light novel hole again, so...
Yeah, well, I think we've both been trying to actively avoid it as much as we can.
We always fail, though.
For better or for worse. Anyway, Karen discovers that Amano is a gamer. And this newfound knowledge, ignites this desire within her to recruit him into the game club. He thinks it's going to be some meeting of destiny, and will you join the game club? Okay, sure.
Could have been worse.
That's true, but So upon visiting the club, Amano is made plainly aware that these people want a game like way differently than he does. Like he just wants to, relax and enjoy and play his games. No big deal,
Yeah, play fucking mobile games.
Well, they're not all mobile games, to be fair. We'll get on to the types of games that are shown off in this show, but it's apparent that all of the members of the club want to become MLG Pro. They're trained to do speed runs and becoming like the best at first-person shooters and fighting games. And
go to Evo.
He's not about that life, and you know what? That's fine. That's okay.
Sure.
But basically, he sort of says, "Yeah, no thanks," and Karen is just crushed, destroyed. But her interest in him just keeps bubbling to the surface. It totally shakes up everything about Amano's life, and it just goes so far off the rails. And this show is goofy and it's stupid, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I mostly enjoyed it. Let me say that. So before we get too deep into the finer details, this was animated by the studio Pine Jam. Pine Jam have worked on other shows such as a currently airing one called Just Because.
Mm-hmm. Are you still watching that, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a show that I'm enjoying, and we'll talk about it in greater detail later on, but apparently it's had a lot of production issues, which is kind of unfortunate. But and some of their other more notable question mark stuff is Maho Shoujo Nante Moi Desu Kara, which is I've had enough of being a magical girl. I think I tried watching one episode of it, and I was like, okay, I'm good. And then they worked on Tawawa on Monday, which is an adaptation of a web manga that is purely wish fulfillment. I'm just going to throw it right out there. That's basically what it is. This show kind of borders on that at the beginning, but sort of flips the concept on its head a little bit. So I'm glad it at least, changes itself up to be a little bit more different than I was expecting. I was like, it's going to be typical light novel. The guy's gonna get the girl. He's so cool. Everyone wants to be like him, and it's not like that, which I'm a little grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
Show was directed by Manabu Okamoto, who doesn't really have a lot of directorial credits to his name except for being episode director on shows like Agame Got Kill, Idolmaster Cinderella Girls, and ReZero. There's like I wouldn't say fresh talent on this show, but people who haven't done a lot of the things that they were slotted in to do, which is weird. He also worked on some of the composition and script. One of the, as most cases, there were 3 script writers on the show. Another one was Hiroki Uchida, who, as far as I could tell, did CG work on a lot of shows, like Arslan, one of the Initial D movies, Phantasy Star Online 2.
Not that stellar of a fucking resume, actually.
No.
Maybe you should stick to script writing.
Yeah. The other writer is Masami Saito, who scripted one episode and then has done like background art on like a plethora of other shows. So like when I was doing my research for this, I was kind of like, wow, no one really seems like they were a fit for any of the roles they were given, except for the musician, who's Yoshiaki Dewa, who actually has done music for stuff like Flying Witch, the currently running Kino's Journey, A Lull in the Sea, and Tawawa on Monday. So at least you're doing the job you set out to do, dude.
I mean, it's always who says that people can't change and expand their expertise and horizon and everything? So
that's true, but sometimes, to be suddenly thrust into something like that, it could definitely be to the production's detriment, which it 100% isn't in the case of this show, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
I promise we'll get to that. So like I said before, the show's really goofy, and like we said in the previous episode preview, the show is one about misunderstandings. Lots of misunderstandings. No one says what they mean. No one understands what anyone else is saying, and it is played to amazing comedic effect, especially when Amano, who is like this unassuming milquetoast everyman, just nobody, suddenly he's got 3 girls tripping over themselves for him, and it's like, wow, dude, you won the lotto today, didn't you? And it just is. It's so weird seeing something like that. Sometimes, I don't know. I've seen so many other weird rom-coms, but some parts of this just felt kind of strange just because of the misunderstandings. Like at some points, of course, it was always funny, but at some points it was kind of like, do you really need to push this another step further? I mean, I guess at its core it is comedy, but but because of that, there's some other things that kind of get pushed aside. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about the club that he tries to join, and there are these members that are there. It doesn't really matter if we know their names because we see them for like an episode and a half and then they're gone, just forever. One of them, you see her sitting in the corner playing Guilty Gear. And it's not one of those not Guilty Gear. It's Guilty Gear because if you look in the credits at the end of the show, Arc Systems works through sponsorship money at this show, which is fine. It's fine.
Like Capcom did with Akiba Strip.
That was so great. I still love that. Oh,
and it was a great, like the Guilty Gear scene, and was a great reference in this show, and it fits. So
yes,
it's even better than I feel like the Street Fighter stuff fit probably in Akiba Strip.
Yeah, I mean anything where they were able to shoehorn in an Arc Sys game. Number one, that's great because, Guilty Gear is great. Persona 4 Arena is fantastic. These are my personal gaming preferences. And it fits with the theme of the show.
You know what would have been really great? If they, had actually gone to a fucking Guilty Gear tournament and took part in it and constructed an episode around that. An actual episode about gaming in a show called Gamers.
Here's the thing, that's not what this show is about, even though it's called
Apparently not, John!
They introduce this character early on, Eiichi Misumi. He's the only side character whose name I'm actually going to mention because they try to do something with him and they don't. He's just like, oh, I lost my memory. And I somehow woke up in an arcade playing a puzzle game and it's like, okay, I mean... That's strange, but I could see how you make it work. And then they drop it for like 9 episodes.
Okay.
And then he suddenly comes back. He's at some tournament and he's about to face off against, I think it was like a relative or a sister or something. And it's like, okay, this could be a neat setup. It goes nowhere. It goes absolutely nowhere. The show tries to be many things, but it should have just stuck to being a rom-com. And all right, it's funny. It has some good moments, some good character moments that I got chuckles out of. Like you have obviously Keita and Karen, who you're constantly asking yourself, why aren't they together? Why aren't they together? Until they introduce this girl later on, Chiaki, who is basically gender-swapped Keita.
Kind of.
Which, I mean...
Also, you swapped in tastes a bit when it comes to their hobby.
On some fronts of their hobby, they are at odds, yes, but their paths should lead toward one another, but they don't, but they do, but they don't, but they do, but they don't.
Sounds like proper rom-com material.
Yeah. And then there's this guy Keita makes friends with named Tasku, and he's just there to stir the pot. I mean, I like him a lot because he's just there to get a laugh at everyone else being a dumbass.
And I liked that initially too, because I said, oh, he's going to be the puck of this, he's going to be the mischief maker, but, at the end he'll maybe pull through and try to get Keita and, Karen together, because, he's actually a good guy deep down, but then he gets mixed up in this shit as well, and in the misunderstandings and everything.
Because he thinks his girlfriend Aguri is going out with Keita, and it's just like,
yeah, it's the typical thing. If you people would actually sit together and actually talk to each other, this would be resolved in a matter of 5 fucking minutes, not even, probably 2, and.
But no, we have to be complete, just like. Pinheads to each other. I mean, again, it's for the sake of comedy, and I got a lot of cheap laughs out of it.
Yeah, and that's fine and good, and that it speaks for you that you can, derive enjoyment from that kind of comedy. I can't. I absolutely cannot. I started the show because I expected something. I don't want to say Genshiken because I've actually never watched that show, but I heard good things about it, and it's kind of a samey setup.
I never finished watching that show, but I did start it, so.
So I expected this to be a show that had, at its core, the gaming club and, the several people on it having, misadventures together, going maybe to tournaments, having some fun together, going to places and experiencing some game-related stuff, and then growing with that, having the characters develop with each other, get a repertoire, and become friends, and all that good stuff.
See, that would have been cool. That would have been cool, and it would have helped elevate everything else around it. But it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't.
Maybe get a bit of like a shonen tournament thing in there where they actually take part in a tournament, even though, Keita doesn't want to do that, doesn't want to be a pro gamer. But then, he watches them, gets, invested because they have become his friends, and he roots for them. And then there's this, pivotal moment where some of them drops out and he has to take place, and, they actually win and stuff like that, even though, he isn't really that good at it, but, he pulls through in the right moment and stuff like that. That would have been really entertaining and, heartwarming and stuff like that. And at the side of that, they could have put, like, the romance stuff with him and Karen. But what we instead got, what I got, and what I didn't want was this being, like, a fucking, not love triangle, it's a fucking quintet of awful.
Yeah.
Where, it's constantly, these characters totally misunderstand what's happening here, and this is what's happening here. And, like you said, it's played solely for comedy. The problem is I don't find that funny. I find that annoying. Like, that is just not funny to me. I like it. In the beginning, it was like, okay, let's see how long they run with this. I can deal with this for 3 episodes. And it's funny how Tasku, sees immediately. It's like, oh, you two are into each other, but the other one doesn't know it, right? So I'm going to make fun of them. It was like, oh, okay, this is an interesting take. It's kind of mean-spirited, but let's see what they do with that. They didn't do much with that. And this was also very disappointing. And it's like I said, after 3 episodes, I started to notice, okay, no, this isn't gonna go anywhere. This is gonna be just those guys, like, constantly misunderstanding each other and constantly not seeing who likes who and everything, and that's going to be the whole joke of the show, and it's going to be that until the end of its runtime. And that was crystal clear, like, in the 6th episode, I think, when they, like, all sit in a classroom and at the same time have a fucking meltdown about, their fucking misunderstandings and insecurities and every fucking, like, losing their shit. And I was sitting here and I was like hitting the pause button. Nope, I'm getting off this train because no, this is just not for me. This is so fucking annoying. I can't fucking deal with this. This is not what I wanted from this show. I expected it to focus on the main scope of the gaming club, and like you said, apparently these characters don't appear anymore after the first 2 episodes. So this is what I felt was gonna happen after I watched the first couple of episodes. Like, okay, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna go back there. And yeah, I overall wanted more gaming in general, and they just, stuck to actually using that material for like one-liner reference jokes in certain cases, like, one character saying like, oh, you act like this and this character from this game, and that's it. And then, like, okay, this is like this thin through line, and all these characters share kind of this hobby, and that's it. And they do nothing else with that, and that is like such a wasted opportunity, in my opinion.
It becomes less than a one-trick pony pretty quickly.
I expect as much, and that's a shame. That's really a shame. From the setup, I was really into that show. I really, really enjoyed the first episodes. Like, okay, this is neat. I like the people in the gaming club, and this could be really cool if they do this right, and make an interesting character slice of life thing with that, with gaming stuff in there, and they didn't, and and that was what we got, was just not for me, not at all, not up my alley at all. And I wonder, you apparently wasn't what you expected either, but you are much more lenient when it comes to this typical romance.
Maybe a little too much so.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, if people like what they like, but I wonder, how does Gamers stack up to some of the other rom-coms you watched, and where was it worse, or what did some shows do better that Gamers didn't?
Well, I want to go back for a minute and talk about how you said how it would have been neat if Amano, like, even on a surface level, got involved with the club, went to a competition or whatever. There was a show airing at the same time as this one I started to watch, and maybe I should have watched instead, called Fastest Finger First. We talked about it briefly in the summer preview, or summer sneak peek, and I kind of dropped it because I just sort of fell out of it. But it's about this kid, Shiki, who is just this bookworm, and he loves expanding his knowledge and quizzing himself on stuff. So he joins this quiz club. But one of the things that they do that he's not expecting is to start entering these quiz bowls, and he sort of is begrudgingly brought into it, but he sort of like comes into it and makes it his own. And that's interesting because you're building on your core concept. Yes. This show does not. And
it's just for decoration, basically.
Yes. And there are other rom-coms, like I'm watching one now. Shock, I know. Called Our Love Has Always Been 10 Centimeters Apart. And that's part of the theme, is that this boy and this girl are so close to each other, but they're not sure how to close the gap.
There's another show this season, I think, that I have heard many good things about, that is Recovering of an MMO Junkie or something.
Yeah. That's actually something that is sitting in my Crunchyroll queue, and I haven't touched yet, but I've heard so many good things about it, and I want to watch it eventually, so.
Yeah, and apparently that is also, like, really, I can't speak, of it with certainty because I haven't watched it, but from what I've read, this is also really like using its, core setup of two people who don't know themselves in real life, like playing this MMO and, growing together in this MMO, loving each other. And, that's...
Oh, God, sorry.
No, I mean, that's cool. That's like actually using your fucking setup, your fucking material, and the environment you built for this thing in a good way, in an interesting way. And yeah, Gamers didn't do that.
Another show that I just repopped into my head is And You Thought There's Never a Girl Online. It uses its concept better too. And I sort of liked this show while I was watching it, and now that we're talking it out, I'm sort of saying to myself, it was a lot more flimsy than I thought, wasn't it?
I mean, I don't want to just sour your feelings on it.
No, but I actually walked away from the show saying, wow, this was really not good, because the final episode is just really, really weak.
Yeah, I remember you being really, really disappointed with that. What specifically turned you off so much about it?
So we go through having this stupid rom-com bullshit adventure, magical fun time, whatever you want to call it. And the final episode is just them talking about the nature of video games and DLC and like what is compared to the rest of the show. This is like a massive tonal shift. It feels, you know what it feels like? It feels like, oh, this is the OVA episode. We're not sure we're going to sell Blu-rays, so we're just going to throw it on TV anyway. There was another show, God, I don't know how many years ago, called Mayo Chiki that did the same thing, where the final episode felt so out of place, and I was just kind of like, wow, guys, what? So, like, when that was the note, the ended on, I was kind of like, no.
Does even any of the rom-com stuff get wrapped up? Like,
nope, of course it doesn't.
Do none of the misunderstandings get resolved or clarified? Oh, great, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, this show could have been a lot better, but it just it gets muddy, like only a few episodes in, and it just like completely drops the ball. And no one ever picks it up, and it's like...
And it's super weird. Like, I mean, if you look at the fucking opening of the show...
The opening is so good!
Yeah, there's so much loving detail put into this fucking OP. It's great. It's like, it's got nice gaming references, and you've got like this final montage of, you know, all the characters in that show working together to defeat an enemy, which I took as like, okay, this is symbolism for them actually participating in a fucking gaming competition or something, and then together beating a fucking, other gaming team or something. And this is what this is about. And, overcoming their own barriers and everything, and, becoming, stronger people or something. And no, apparently not.
No, it just...
It feels like this is the opening to a completely different show.
Yeah, it just kind of falls all over itself, and I wanted to like this show a lot, and I think there are things to like about it. Like it's got good character designs. There's a lot of personality. The animation is it's pretty good. Not the toppest tier, but it looks nice enough for what it is. If you like your goofy hijinks, they're there in spades. They are there in spades.
To be fair, all the misunderstanding jokes aside, which are totally not my cup of tea, but there's some really good jokes in there, and some great, some of the one-liners that are game references and everything actually work and are cool and are well thought out. The problem is, that's the only thing game-related that is in there, where I expected much more of substance to be worked into the actual plot of the show. I expected the show to have an actual plot and character development, which apparently didn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said earlier, the product placement is just like, they understand, they kind of, sort of, understand their audience and what they're trying to achieve, even though they didn't get there. And like we were just saying, the opening sequence is probably one of the best and most fun ones of the season, man.
And super, super catchy song.
Yeah, and I am a sucker for songs that are performed by, the voice actors and actresses in the show. So you have the voice actresses for Karen, Chiaki, and Aguri singing this song all about, being gamers and blah, 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 and it's fun and it's catchy and it's got, this neat animation backing up, and you don't get what's promised on the surface. Oops. So, now, like I said, now that I'm actually putting a little bit more thought into it than before, maybe if they did another season where they actually focused on the core concept, which they won't, I'm sure, it could be more than it was, but I don't see that happening. It's just going to be more of the same if it gets a second season.
It feels like, we both haven't read the light novels, but it feels like the core concept of this show was, after all, only the rom-com, and what we expected to be the core concept, which is, the gaming club and everything, turned out to be, the side dressing, the decoration, the, window dressing, the, the stuff that is there to, get the nerds interested, maybe, and,
It's otaku bait.
Yeah, or give exactly otaku bait, and give the show a theme that is well known to its audience or parts of its audience anyway, and make it a bit more, I don't know, interesting in that regard than your general high school rom-com stuff, because there is some, more, I don't want to say in-depth because it's still pretty shallow, but, a bit more, versatile reference stuff in there. And themes from other parts, of nerd culture and everything. So I don't know. Maybe the first episode did a kind of shitty job at conveying the what it actually wanted to be about, what the show actually is gonna be about. Because both of us expected something else. I wonder. I mean, if I remember correctly, the show was kind of well received. I didn't hear that many negative voices, actually, at least not in the beginning. I don't know if that changed later on. I mean, for you it did. For me, it did pretty quickly. So I wonder how many people had the same experience as we did, where they got into the show, expected a certain kind of, plot progression, story progression, character progression, after the setup, and then got something completely different. Or if there were more people who got into the show and expected, like, okay, it's just gonna be a funny rom-com, and a bit with a bit of gaming side, window dressing at the side. So I wonder where the majority of this show's audience lies, and how people came away from it overall. I haven't checked out any reviews or stuff like that. So. Yeah.
And looking at the user ratings on Anime News Network, I mean, it's got a strong number of 7s and 8s. But looking over on Kitsu, some of the user reviews aren't quite as glowing. Mm-hmm. Like, let's read off some of these here. This is not something I plan on doing, but why not?
Sure.
Okay. Misunderstandings, the anime. While it's fairly unoriginal in structure, it's executed very well. What show did you watch? And comes out as kind of funny for a rom-com. For a rom-com, if it had a different theme. Gamers might seem really generic at first glance, but it stands out quite a lot from other rom-coms. It is funny and pretty cute. Okay, here we go. Stupid teenagers with no dating experience get into dating and start acting even more stupid. Yes!
Yeah. Pretty much.
This anime gives me anxiety. Okay, that's all right. An anime not about gaming, but about relationships and a series of misunderstandings. Well, we touched on that. That's
yes,
absolutely true. It started out funny and somewhat charming. However, that changes halfway through. I'd argue sooner than that. Most of the characters become annoying and stupid. I'd say most of these are on the money.
Yeah, pretty much. This is kind of, what that kind of echoes our own sentiments, I would say. So I don't know what. Are there still some people you would recommend the show to?
I would say if you're gonna watch something that's centered around rom-com and gaming and uses gaming as its central theme, go either. Apparently Netoju no Susume is really good. Like we mentioned earlier, the Recovery of an MMO Addict, which I would like to check out eventually. But one that I've watched, I still thought was really enjoyable and interesting, more so than I thought initially, was And You Thought There's Never a Girl Online. I'd say watch that instead. It's got more interesting characters. It sticks to its themes better, and it's just all around, better show, man. Sorry, gamers, I wanted to like you, but...
Yeah, me too. I guess that's why... That's always the ones where we get the most fired up and, let's say, outwardly angry.
Like
Because, you know,
I don't
the
feel
show-
angry towards the show.
Or-
I feel
yeah,
I
angry is the wrong
feel I
one.
feel burned by it.
Yeah, kind of burned a bit and disappointed, you know, because
Yeah.
you see the potential, or at least the potential it had for you in terms of what you wanted from the show, what you expected from the show, and what you didn't get. And you're like, this was a chance for something really special and something really cool. And, you know, that we didn't get. Some other people might enjoy it for what it was, or would say like, why would you expect this? Or why are you not satisfied with what you got? I hope we could lay out pretty clearly why we were disappointed with this show, kind of. I mean, you still liked more parts of it than I did, you know, but I would probably, if you are a diehard rom-com fan, then maybe this is for you, because there's still some pretty good jokes in there, and if you can deal with the misunderstanding stuff, then if that doesn't bother you, then maybe there's something in there. But even then, there are probably a lot more well-done rom-coms out there. And yeah, I don't know if this show doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't.
It doesn't live up to its potential, not in the least.
And that is a wrap on the 41st episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jack Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for some interesting articles linked in our episode release posts. Follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze. We tweet regular updates and fun anime-related stuff there. Leave us comments and questions on Facebook and our YouTube channel, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Macht's gut.
Take care, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
We sing the swan songs of the Valkyries as meteoroids fall and burn away. The stars become music. We hold our fists up in determination and shed many tears as we face the truths before us.